Imagine a book that holds the secrets to unshakable self-confidence. A book that can make you resilient against criticism, self-doubt, and setbacks. This book is a hidden gem, often overlooked, yet offers powerful principles for building bulletproof self-esteem. This book doesn't just give you theory, it gives you clear daily practices that reshape how you think, feel, and live, creating the kind of inner strength most people only dream of. The book explains that self-esteem isn't just a feel-good concept, it's the ultimate immune system for the mind. Without it, even the smallest setbacks feel overwhelming, but with it, you can take on the world. So let's dive into this brilliant book. It's Nathaniel Branden's 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. So in today's episode, we are going to uncover the secrets to this true inner strength. So in the next 15 minutes, you'll learn daily practices that create true confidence, habits that will protect you from negativity and self-doubt. 3 of the key takeaways you'll get today are: number 1, what true confidence is. We will learn the daily practices that build genuine confidence and why self-esteem acts as the immune system of our minds, protecting us from negativity and self-doubt. Secondly, we will reveal the mindset shift that is needed to understand the difference between what is real self-esteem and a fragile ego, and why true self-worth comes from within, not from the opinions or validations of others. And then lastly, we will look at self-esteem in action by looking at simple practices that anyone can do to improve self-esteem today, from self-acceptance to mindfulness, even in the face of setbacks. So if you're new to the channel, then welcome to Wise Words, where we break down the most powerful ideas from today's best books and bring you practical wisdom you can apply right now. Today, we're diving into the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, a guide to mastering the daily habits that build lasting confidence. So if you learned something valuable today, please like our video and subscribe. It means a lot to us. So how do we begin building the inner strength and resilience that self-esteem brings? Let's find out. Chapter 1, Self-Esteem Basic Principles. So what is self-esteem really? Is it just about feeling good or liking ourselves? Well, Nathaniel Branden in the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem argues that self-esteem is actually much deeper and more essential. He describes it as the immune system of our mind, something that helps us recover from setbacks, take on challenges, and believe we're capable of achieving our goals. But how do we develop it? Branden defines self-esteem in 2 key parts: self-efficacy and self-respect. First, self-efficacy is the belief that we can handle life's challenges, that we have the ability to think, learn, and make decisions that lead to successful outcomes. It's the knowing of, I can handle this. And the second part, self-respect, is even more profound. Self-respect is believing that we deserve happiness and success. It's the deep feeling that we are worthy, that we have the right to pursue our dreams and needs without shame or apology. Branden compares self-esteem to a feedback loop. The more we believe in our own mind's abilities, the more resilient we become. This confidence leads us to take positive actions, which in turn reinforces our self-esteem. Imagine it as a muscle. Each time we trust ourselves and act in alignment with that trust, our self-esteem strengthens. But what happens when we lack this trust? Without self-esteem, life can feel like we're trying to steer a ship in the middle of a storm without a compass. Small problems seem overwhelming, setbacks are harder to bounce back from, and there's always that nagging sense that we're not quite good enough. Branden's message here is powerful. If we make self-esteem a priority, we gain an inner immune system that protects us, helping us recover quickly, facing life's obstacles, and most importantly, pursue our potential without self-doubt holding us back. So, how do we start strengthening this inner immune system? The first of Branden's 6 pillars, living consciously, takes us there. This is where we begin to unlock a life of greater confidence and self-worth, one step at a time. So chapter 2, the practice of living consciously. So how do we actually build self-esteem? Well, according to Nathaniel Branden, it all begins with simple yet powerful practice, living consciously. But what does that mean exactly? Well, living consciously is about becoming more aware of our thoughts, emotions, actions, and even our environment. It's choosing to notice, to be present, and to stay curious, rather than turning away or avoiding reality. You can think of it this way. How often do we react out of habit, avoiding discomfort or difficult truths, just to get through the day? Branden suggests that every time we avoid reality, we weaken our self-esteem. But by living consciously, we're telling ourselves, I can face what is real, even if it's uncomfortable. I trust myself to handle it. And that's where self-esteem truly begins. Branden explains that self-esteem is built through thousands of tiny choices to stay aware. For instance, Imagine you're feeling frustrated at work. Living consciously means noticing that frustration, asking where it's coming from, and then deciding on how to act on it, rather than ignoring or suppressing it. This act of facing reality, even when it's hard, strengthens our sense of self-worth, bit by bit. So, the question is, how can we start living more consciously each day? Well, Branden offers some actionable steps. First, make a habit of checking in with yourself. Ask questions like, am I present in this moment? Am I really being listening in this conversation? What am I feeling right now, and why? This isn't about judging ourselves. It's about noticing and being open to what is there. Another technique Branden recommends is the sentence completion exercise. Each morning, try writing out the beginning of a sentence like, if I bring 5% more awareness to my day, I will ... Then finish it with whatever comes to mind, repeating it a few times. This exercise might seem simple, but it helps train our minds to be more attentive and aware, creating a habit of consciousness that strengthens over time. Living consciously isn't just a self-esteem booster, it's the foundation for a fulfilling life. When we choose to be fully present, we feel more capable, more connected, and more alive. It's the difference between drifting through life and steering with purpose. But living consciously is only the first step. Up next, we'll uncover the second pillar of self-esteem, self-acceptance. Imagine what might change if, instead of fighting against ourselves, we learn to accept who we are right now. How would that feel? So chapter 3, the practice of self-acceptance. Living consciously brings awareness, but the next step to building self-esteem is just as essential, self-acceptance. Now, self-acceptance isn't about ignoring our flaws or pretending everything's perfect. It's about acknowledging who we are, both our strengths and our weaknesses, without self-judgment or rejection, and that's important. So often, we treat ourselves as if we're our own worst enemy. We criticize, compare, and sometimes even reject ourselves. But Nathaniel Branden points out that to truly grow, we have to start from the place of self-acceptance. Think about it. If we can't accept who we are right now, how can we hope to improve or change? Self-acceptance, Branden explains, is layered. At the most basic level, it means being on our own side. It's about supporting ourselves, not tearing ourselves down. This means choosing to value ourselves simply because we're alive and aware, rather than basing our worth on perfection or constant achievement. But what does self-acceptance look like in practice? It's about acknowledging our emotions without denial or suppression. For example, if we feel anxious or frustrated, self-acceptance means saying, yes, I'm feeling this way, and that is okay. It doesn't mean we like feeling anxious, but it does mean we allow ourselves to feel it without self-blame. So here is a practical insight. Branden suggests a powerful exercise to build self-acceptance. So it's very simple. You spend a few moments each day in front of a mirror, looking at yourself and saying, whatever my imperfections, I accept myself fully. Breathe deeply and let those words sink in. It might feel strange at first, but this practice gradually builds a habit of accepting ourselves as we are. True self-acceptance also includes being kind to ourselves, especially when we fall short. Branden describes this as being a friend to yourself. Imagine how you'd respond to a close friend who's struggling. Chances are you'd encourage them and you wouldn't shame them. Applying that same compassion to ourselves is a powerful way to strengthen self-esteem. Self-acceptance is the foundation for personal growth. When we stop fighting ourselves, we free up the energy to focus on what really matters. But self-acceptance alone isn't enough. We also need to take responsibility for our lives and our choices. So in the next chapter, we'll explore the third pillar of self-esteem, self-responsibility. Chapter 4, the practice of self-responsibility. Self-acceptance teaches us to be on our own side, but to truly strengthen our self-esteem, we need to go one step further. Self-responsibility, this is the practice of taking full ownership of our lives, our choices, and our happiness. Think of it as realizing, if I want a fulfilling life, it's up to me to create it. So, what does self-responsibility look like day to day? Branden explains it's about recognizing that no one else is responsible for our happiness, success, or even our feelings. If we want something, whether it's a meaningful career, strong relationships, or inner peace, it's on us to make it happen. It's the understanding that we are the main character in our lives, not an NPC or side character waiting for others to save the day. This isn't about blaming ourselves or feeling guilty for things we can't control. Instead, it's about focusing what we can control. Branden suggests that taking responsibility empowers us to stop waiting on circumstances or people to change. We are then going to take the driver's seat, making decisions that move us toward our goals and values. For example, say you're not satisfied with your job. Taking self-responsibility means asking, what can I do to make this better? Can I learn new skills, apply for a different role, or maybe even start a side project that excites me? It's about shifting focus from why this isn't working to what actions can I take. Branden recommends starting small with daily exercises that build the habit of responsibility. Here are 2 practical exercises that can help. Exercise 1, goal setting. Start by writing down one small goal each day, a to-do, that brings you closer to where you want to be. It can be as simple as learning a new skill, reaching out to a mentor, or setting time aside for personal growth. Taking responsibility for these small actions every day builds momentum and shows us we're capable of creating positive change one step at a time. Exercise number 2, focus on control. When life feels overwhelming, Branden suggests focusing on what you can control. Create 2 lists. Things I can control, things I don't control. When you feel anxious or defeated, use this list to refocus. Redirecting your energy towards things you can control, like your actions, responses, or goals, empowers you to take charge of your life, even in small ways. Practicing these exercises helps us move from feeling like victims of circumstance to feeling like active participants in our lives. Every small action builds self-trust and strengthens self-esteem, preparing us to face bigger challenges with confidence. But here's the thing, taking responsibility sometimes means standing up for our beliefs, even when it's difficult. This leads us to the next pillar of self-esteem, self-assertiveness. So in this next chapter, we'll explore why self-assertiveness is essential and how to practice it without fear. Chapter 5, the practice of self-assertiveness. So far, we've talked about building self-esteem through awareness, self-acceptance, and taking responsibility for our lives. But there's another key to strengthening self-esteem, and that is self-assertiveness. This pillar is about honoring our own needs and values and opinions. It's about having the courage to be ourselves even when it's not easy. So imagine a moment when you really wanted to say something, but you held back. Maybe you didn't want to rock the boat or risk somebody's disapproval. Self-assertiveness is the opposite of staying silent. It's the choice to respect our own voice and express it. Nathaniel Branden explains that self-assertiveness isn't about being aggressive or demanding. It's about showing up in life as our true selves. Self-assertiveness means giving ourselves permission to say, this is who I am, this is what I think, this is what I want. It's standing by our beliefs even if they're different from those around us. And here's something important. Self-assertiveness isn't just about big moments or major decisions. It shows up in the small, everyday choices. It's saying no when we need to, setting boundaries, or simply speaking up in a meeting. Every time we practice self-assertiveness, we reinforce to ourselves that our thoughts, needs, and values matter. So how do we build this self-assertiveness? Well, Branden suggests 2 exercises that can help strengthen this habit. Exercise 1, small acts of assertiveness. Each day, practice one small act of assertiveness. This could be as simple as expressing an opinion, saying no to something that doesn't serve you, or even sharing a personal preference with friends or family. The goal is to gradually get comfortable with asserting yourself and feeling that your voice matters. Exercise 2, recognizing your right to exist. Self-assertiveness may feel challenging at first, especially if we're used to putting others' needs ahead of our own. But every time we act with self-assertiveness, we send a message to ourselves, I am worthy of respect, and that message repeated over time becomes part of our self-esteem. So once we're able to assert our needs and stand by our values, we're one step closer to living with purpose. So up next, we'll explore the 5th pillar of self-esteem, which is living purposefully. So how can setting clear goals and taking purposeful action transform our confidence and sense of self? Chapter 6, the practice of living purposefully. Building self-esteem also means living with a sense of purpose. In the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, Nathaniel Branden explains that living purposefully is about setting meaningful goals and taking actions towards them. It's the practice of making our time, energy, and focus count. So think of a time when you felt directionless, like you were just going through the motions. Purpose gives life meaning and focus. It's the difference between drifting aimlessly and steering our lives in a direction that feels fulfilling. Living purposefully is about aligning our actions with our goals. Branden says it requires us to set clear intentions and to keep asking ourselves, am I moving toward my goals or am I just staying busy? Purposeful living is a mindset of focus and intention, not just activity for activity's sake. For example, imagine your goal is to improve your health. Living purposefully means creating small, achievable steps toward that goal, like setting a weekly exercise schedule or planning healthy meals. And every time you take action toward this goal, you reinforce a sense of control and build your self-esteem. So here's a practical insight. To practice living purposefully, Branden suggests using a few exercises that help us stay focused and on track. Exercise 1, daily goal setting. Start each day by setting one specific goal that brings you closer to a long-term objective. This could be related to your career, health, relationships, or personal growth. Write it down and keep it in mind throughout the day. The purpose here is to create a habit of aligning your daily actions with your bigger goals. Exercise 2, reflection and adjustment. At the end of each day, take a few moments to reflect. Ask yourself, did my actions today support my goals and values? If they didn't, think about how you could adjust that tomorrow. This daily check-in helps keep you accountable and ensures that you're living in alignment with your purpose. So when we live purposefully, we create a steady source of motivation and direction. Each small step towards our goals boosts our self-esteem as we see ourselves making progress and creating the life we truly want. But there's one final key to building lasting self-esteem: personal integrity. So in the next chapter, we'll look at why integrity, staying true to our values, is essential to self-esteem, and how even small acts of integrity can make a powerful difference. So, Chapter 7, the practice of personal integrity. We've reached the final pillar of self-esteem, personal integrity. If self-esteem is built on a foundation of trust and respect, then personal integrity is the glue that holds it all together. Integrity means living in alignment with our values, matching our actions to our beliefs. It's being able to look at ourselves and say, I did what I believe is right. Think about it. Have you ever gone against your own values to fit in, avoid conflict, or make things easier? It may have felt like a quick solution, but afterward there's usually a sense of regret or self-doubt. Integrity isn't always easy, but each time we honour our values, we reinforce our self-esteem. Branden explains that personal integrity is the foundation of self-trust. When we live by our values, we show ourselves that we can be counted on to do the right thing, even when it's difficult. Over time, this builds a powerful inner confidence, because we're not just talking about what we believe, we're living it. But what does integrity look like in everyday life? It's often in the small everyday actions: keeping a promise, being honest when it's easier to hide, standing up for what's right. Each choice may seem small, but together they shape our character and strengthen our self-esteem. So, to practice integrity, Branden suggests simple yet powerful exercises to build this habit of honouring our values. Exercise number 1, identify core values. So start by identifying your core values. Ask yourself very broad questions like, what do I believe in? What principles matter most to me? Write them down. This clarity will help you recognize situations where you need to act in alignment with those values, especially when faced with difficult decisions. And then exercise number 2, a daily integrity check-in. At the end of each day, do a quick integrity check-in. Reflect on your actions and ask, did I live by my values today? Were there moments when I acted out of alignment with them? If there were, think about how you could handle similar situations better next time. This exercise keeps you accountable and strengthens your commitment to integrity. Bonus tip, keep small promises. Make small achievable promises to yourself, like drinking a glass of water each morning or going to bed by a certain time. These small promises may seem simple, but each one of them you keep builds trust in yourself. By honouring even these small commitments, you will reinforce that you can depend on your own word. Living with integrity isn't about being perfect, it's about striving to be honest with ourselves and to align our actions with what we believe. Each act of integrity builds self-respect, showing us that we're trustworthy and that our values guide our lives. And that's the heart of self-esteem: living consciously, accepting ourselves, taking responsibility, being assertive, acting with purpose, and honouring our integrity. Each pillar reinforces the others, creating a strong, resilient foundation for a fulfilling life. So, I hope this exploration of the 6 pillars of self-esteem has given you some practical steps for building true self-worth. If these ideas resonated with you, please like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which pillar do you find the most powerful, or which one are you excited to work on? Remember, the path to self-respect and confidence is daily practice, and every small step counts. See you in the next video.